In this video today, we are going to look at the equation of a circle, how to manipulate that equation, how to graph with that equation, and then we're going to look at how to do a few word problems with that as well. So I'm going to go right into presenting, and we will go. So if you have your 10.6 notes packet printed, you can write on that. If you don't, you can certainly just do this on a separate piece of paper, and that's no problem at all. So today we're using one particular equation for this entire video, and that'll be our focus for this whole week as well. So write the equation of a circle and use it and its graph to solve problems. So the standard equation of a circle with radius r and center hk is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And I would go ahead and write that down. So you can pause the video to write that down. And then your handout has got a whole lot of explanation here, and I'm going to kind of skip over that. If you would like to use that, by all means, go right ahead and you can do that on your own. So I wrote out what was at the top of the paper here at the bottom of page 1. So this is the standard equation of the circle described. And so question 1 says that the center is 4, -1, and the radius is 6. So the center, the h will be the 4 and the k will be the -1. And because in the formula it's a minus, we will always switch our sign. So this is going to be x minus 4 squared plus y minus -1 squared. So we are always going to change it. So if this is positive, that's going to become negative. And since minus and negative becomes positive, this -1 will become a positive 1. So that will always be the case where they change. And then this is going to equal the radius squared, so 6 squared. And the one thing that I generally might forget is that the radius is squared. So that's the part that you kind of have to work through. All right, so my final answer will then be x minus 4 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals 36. And that's all that you have to do there. Okay, for number 2, it says that the center is -1, -5, and the radius is 3.2 squared. So I would suggest that you pause the video and try that one on your own. When I do it, again, the sign will change. So x minus -1 squared plus y minus -5 squared equals 3.2 squared. So this will be x plus 1 squared plus y plus 5 squared equals 3.2 squared, which will be, let me get my favorite calculator for you guys. So 3.2 squared will be 10.24. Okay, and then that would be my equation for number 2. So here's number 1, and here's number 2. So we just practiced writing equation given the center and the radius. The next 2 questions give you the center and a point. So I know the example above says to use the distance formula, but instead of that, I'm just going to use this equation, the one that we started with, and we'll go from there. I'm going to call this guy here 3a. So 3a writes the center is, so I'm going to write center is -2, 3, and the point on the circle is 2, 3. So what we're going to do is we are going to substitute this point in for h and k, and this is just a point x, y, and we're going to plug those all into our equation. So I'm going to have 2 for the x, because this is an x, so the x goes in, so the 2 goes in for x. The h is -2. You know what? Let's even take it back a notch. So let's go ahead and just plug in the h and k. So I have x minus -2 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals r squared. Okay, now let's plug in the x and the y. So when I plug in the 2 for x, it's going to go here, and this is going to become a +2 every single time. So I'm going to have 2 plus 2 squared, and then y is going to be 3, so 3 minus 3 squared equals r squared. Well, this one's convenient because the 3 minus 3 is 0. 0 squared is just 0, so that just all cancels. This is 4 squared equals r squared. So we know 16 equals r squared. So your final equation would be x plus 2 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals the 16. You do not need to find the radius. You certainly could if you wanted to get the radius was 4. By all means, that would be fine. But you're not asked for that. You're asked to put into r squared, so you can just stop at the 16. And that can be a little confusing, so just be careful with that. All right, I would say go ahead and try 3b on your own. So pause the video, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. You can check your answer in a minute. All right, so for 3b, they give us the center is 6, negative 4, and the point is 2, negative 7. Okay, so then that means I would have x minus 6 squared plus y plus 4 squared equals r squared. So now I'm going to, and I change the sign here from the 6 from positive to negative, from negative to positive, and now I'm going to plug in 2, negative 7. So I have 2 minus 6 squared plus negative 7 plus 4 squared equals r squared. So I'm going to get negative 4 squared plus negative 3 squared equals r squared. So that's going to be 16 plus 9, or 25. So then my radius would be 5. I'm not asked for that, but if you were, you would just know that the radius was 5. And then you would write your final equation. So x minus 6 squared plus y plus 4 squared equals 25. And that's your final answer for this problem. Okay, so that's working with the equation and writing the equation given information. So now what I'd like to do is graph a few, and I actually think that the graphing is quite a bit easier. So I'm going to go to page 2. I'm going to ignore everything that they have on the top, and I'm going to go right to a couple of problems. And I'm just going to do number 4 and 5 with you guys. Actually, maybe I'll do, let's do 6 first, which sounds kind of silly, but that's the order that I'm going to go. All right, and this one looks a little weird because there's nothing in the parentheses here for the y. So if it helps you, just write x plus 3 squared plus y minus 0 squared equals 16. And then 16, if you take the square root of that, so take the square root of 16 and you get 4, that's your radius. Okay, and then your center, so since this is the radius squared, it's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared every single time. The center is going to be the opposite. So just like we were switching the sign before, now I'm going to switch it again. So I have negative 3 and then 0. And then all that you're going to do is plot negative 3, 0 on your graph. So I'm going to go by a scale of 1 on this one. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, negative 3, 0. The radius is 4, so I'm going to go 4 units to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 units up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 units left. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 4 units down. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to connect them. Okay, and there you go. All right, on the top, we're going to have an issue with the scale. So if you remember, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Hopefully you can get the center is 2, 7, and the radius is 2 pretty quickly from this one. So I just switched the sign with the negative 2 and the negative 7. I take the square root of 4, I get 2. That's not going to fit on this graph. So I'm just going to go by a scale of 2 instead. So here's 2 to the right, and then 2, 4, 6, 8 is here. So this is 7. And if it helps you, go ahead and write it in 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And you could do the same thing this way, 4, 6, negative 2 if you want. All right, and then you're just going to go 2 to the right, 2 up, 2 left, 2 down. And this is going to be a tiny little circle here. Okay, if you had done it on a larger scale, I don't think that it will fit. So that's why I did it that way. The next one here, we can try it. I think it's going to go off the graph if I don't change the scale. Your center will be negative 6, and then 4, and then the radius will be 3. And then let's try it without changing the scale of the graph. And you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then up 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see I'm going to run out of space when I go left. It's really not a big deal. 3 up 3 down, 3 right, and then 1, 2, 3 left. And then you just draw your circle. So the circle is connecting the points equidistant from the center using that radius. Okay, the last one that I wanted to do is on page 3. And we have a diagram here, and what this situation is saying is a farmer's plot of land was struck by a meteorite, which damaged a circular area of its farm. So you have this object coming out of the sky, and we want to know, is the object damaged or not? So the silo is at the point 2, 4. The farmer's house is at 0, 0. And the pig pen is going to be located at 8, 9. And we're using a new situation. So we're using this model here to go through and do this problem. So they're giving you the equation x minus 3 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 9, and they want to know, was the object damaged? So here is what you're looking for. If the equation is less than r squared, so if whatever you have is less than r squared, if it's less than r squared, it's inside the circle. If it's greater than r squared, it's outside the circle. And then if it were to equal r squared, it's on the circle. Okay, so what that means is all I'm going to do is plug this point 0, 0 into the equation to see where these points lie relative to the circle. So I'm going to plug in 0, 0 here, and I'm going to get 0 minus 3 squared plus 0 minus 3 squared equals 9. Well, negative 3 squared is 9. Negative 3 squared is 9. This is going to be greater than 9. So this is going to be outside the circle. Outside the circle. Okay, next one for 2, 4, I'm going to plug in the 2 and the 4 and see what I get. So I get 2 minus 3 squared plus 4 minus 3 squared compared to 9. So this is going to be negative 1 squared plus 1 squared compared to 9. Well, 1 plus 1 is 2, and that is less than 9. So because it is less than, it is inside our circle. Okay, and then finally our pig pen, we're going to plug that in. I'm going to get 8 minus 3 squared plus 9 minus 3 squared equals, compared to 9. So I know over here I kind of wrote the equal sign, but I'm really trying to figure out what that sign will be. This is 5 squared, and I automatically know that this is going to be larger than, because 25 plus 36, I think, is 61, and it's way bigger than the 9. So this one is outside the circle. Alrighty, well, thank you for watching. I'm in a Google Meet, so I'm going to have to work my way out of this. The equation of a circle is pretty straightforward. So hopefully this video helps and you are doing well this week. All right, take care, everybody.